Hey guys, what is up, and I welcome each and every one of you to a new League of Myths episode. This one will be featuring Poppy. I'm also going to be streaming for a few hours as this video goes live, so I hope to see you there. The link is down below. And remember to show the like button some love if you end up enjoying this episode. But on to the first myth. What's the interaction with Bard's E and Poppy's ultimate and W abilities? So Poppy's W stops any dashes that take place within the AoE around her, and it just so happens that taking the portal is considered to be a dash. So it definitely stopped Bard the first time, but it only stops champions' dashes one time per W use. Next, testing her ultimate and the journey, we're gonna simply press the ultimate very quickly and let go, and you can see that it definitely knocks him right out of the journey and puts him right beside the wall. But is the interaction any different if you charge Poppy's ultimate rather than letting it go instantly? And the result more or less is actually the same. He does not seem to be knocked away much farther, which is a little strange. Here's one a lot of people have been asking. Can you Poppy ult someone through or over Azir's ultimate? So as I'm sure most of you are aware, you normally cannot use something like a Tristana W jump to go over Azir's ultimate. The soldiers will push you back. But as we tested here, that doesn't seem to be the case, and a home run is scored right over the soldiers with Poppy's ultimate. This is where I bet most of you are thinking, well, you probably put the ultimate a little too far away, so we decided to try once again with the ultimate more or less right beside the Dr. Mundo, but the same thing happens and he goes right over for another home run. Moving on to the next myth, can Poppy ult someone mid-air from a Lee Sin ult, Tristana, or Zack's jump? So let's start things off by testing it with the green Majin Buu himself. Zack is known to jump quite high, so this should be somewhat of an interesting test, but you can see that Tristana doesn't push him away with her ultimate, but she definitely stops him mid-air. However, when we test it with something like a Tristana jump, the interaction is actually a little bit different. As you're about to see in this example, Tristana actually gets knocked away while she is mid-jump instead of getting dropped right to the ground, similar to how Zack's interacted. And the last test case scenario for this myth is going to be to see if you can do an alley-oop with Lee Sin and Poppy as he kicks a champion into Poppy, and the answer is most definitely yes, and it knocks him very far away. In the next myth, we'll be going over to the ARAM map to see if Poppy's W stops the second use of the snowball mark. So when you dash to a champion using the snowball, are you considered a champion during the dash? Well, based on the results here, it doesn't seem like that is the case, and Poppy's W does not interrupt it. Here's one I bet a lot of people are wondering about. Is Poppy able to stop the ultimates from Malphite, Sion, or Vi? So for this one, we'll be testing to see if she can stop their ultimates by using her W and her ultimate, and with the W, the answer for Vi is no. And unfortunately for Poppy, not even her hammer can stop the ultimate of Vi, but she still does the damage to her. Next, we have the Rock himself, Malphite, and as he ults inside Poppy with her W active, it has absolutely no effect. And much like in the example earlier, not even Poppy ultimate can stop the unstoppable force, but at least she still does the damage to him. And in the last test case scenario with Sion's ultimate, we'll be testing it first with the W, and it has absolutely no effect. It doesn't even show the text saying cannot be disabled as the earlier ones did. Well, maybe her ultimate can finally be the hero we need to stop one of these ultimates, but unfortunately that is still not the case. Here's one I bet most of you will be happy about. Does Poppy's W stop Riven's E and her Q abilities? So first, let's test it with Riven's E, and even though she still gains the shield, she doesn't actually make the dash. Riven's first Q ability also gets completely negated by Poppy's W, not even taking the damage. Now the second part of her Q will also get stopped by Poppy's W, and even the third Q with the knockup will also get negated by the W. Remember, it'll only stop the first dash made within the W, not all of them, but it's still a great counter to Riven if you absolutely hate facing her. Moving on to the next myth, can Poppy ult a Skarner or Tahm Kench with a champion attached to them? This has got to be definitely one of the more interesting myths. As Skarner ults the Soraka and I ult him, he ends up dragging her about halfway of the flight. Not completely crazy, but still pretty interesting. But what if the hungry man himself, Tahm Kench, eats an enemy champion, so in this case the Xin Zhao? Well, as it becomes hammer time, I knock him away and the Xin Zhao follows him all the way to where the Tahm Kench lands. A new and innovative way to troll your teammates. And just for the sake of testing it, let's see what happens if Tahm Kench eats his own ally, and the exact same thing happens. Both champions going all the way over to Tahm Kench's destination. Moving on to the next myth, can Blitz do a fadeaway hook with Poppy's ultimate? So the results of this myth are very interesting because it does make for some form of counterplay whenever dealing with Poppy's ultimate. Because as you're about to see, as she ults the Blitz away, he can actually pull the Poppy, or any champion for that matter, a decent way along with him. So use your hammer with caution. Moving on, what's the interaction with Poppy ult and Aatrox and Kog'Maw passives? So first, testing things out with Aatrox and his passive. As I use my ultimate, I knock him away and it does the killing blow on him, but you can see he begins regenerating and being in the passive form while he's mid-flight. But would this work the exact same way with a passive that instantly activates something like a Kog'Maw? And unfortunately it does not interact in the same way, and Kog'Maw dies and uses his passive in the exact same spot he got hit. But let's move on to the next myth. Can Lee Sin, Thresh, or Nocturne follow a Poppy ulted champion? So starting things off with a Blind Monk, you'll notice here in the first example that if Lee Sin tries using the second part of his Q while the target is mid-flight, he is actually unable to because the target does become invulnerable while they are flying. So in order to make it work as you would normally expect it to work, you have to have the Lee Sin use the second part of his Q just before you actually hit the champion with your ultimate as Poppy. But Lee Sin didn't follow the champion all the way to the end of the duration, so let's see if Nocturne ends up doing so. As he locks onto the Rise and I hit him away with my hammer, he doesn't seem to follow him all the way to his location, but it's really close. But next, let's see if Thresh has any better chances to follow his target to the end of the duration of the knockup from Poppy's ultimate. Using the same principles as the Lee Sin example, he still doesn't seem to follow the champion all the way to their end location from the ultimate, but he does follow them for a good duration. The next myth is asking, can Poppy use ult and have Thresh lantern an ally with him across the map? So this one is definitely similar in terms of concept to the previous myth. And as I knock away Thresh and Blitz takes the lantern, he seems to follow the Thresh all the way for a majority of the ride, but again, like the previous examples, not all the way. And on to the next one. Will champion clones also get hit by Poppy's ult for the ultimate deception? So let's first test things out with LeBlanc's clone, of course being procced from her passive. Now if this happens to be true and the clone does take the ultimate like a champion would, this can definitely lead to some crazy deceptions being made. And as you just saw, the clone from LeBlanc got knocked away. So it seems like the Deceiver is definitely able to deceive her opponents with that new passive and a Poppy ultimate, but is Shaco able to do the same thing? As the Shaco puts his clone right in front of my face, I end up winding up my ultimate and the exact same thing happens. So whenever facing a Poppy, definitely keep this in mind as it can save you and your teammates. The third last myth is asking, is it possible for Yasuo to ult off of Poppy's ultimate? So this is one I'm sure a lot of people are wondering if it is possible, and here we are about to test it using the instant part of her ultimate to knock him in place. The Yasuo on my team was spamming his R button, but it simply did not go off, which is very unfortunate for Yasuo. However, the next one is asking if Yasuo's wind wall can stop the shockwave from Poppy's ultimate. So let's see if Yasuo can redeem himself from the previous myth. So Poppy's ultimate has a shockwave traveling across the ground looking for the first opponent. And interestingly enough, it is considered a projectile and it will be halted by something like a wind wall. And the final myth, because a lot of people were curious, what happens if two Poppies ult each other at the exact same time? As the two Poppies take their positions and start facing each other and get ready to wind up that ultimate, they both release it at more or less the exact same time and they both get knocked away across the map. Exactly what you probably thought would happen. Alright guys, that unfortunately is it for this episode of the League of Myths series. Make sure to definitely hit the like button if you enjoyed it and share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't. And I'd really appreciate it if you guys can check out the previous episodes of this series if you haven't, and my other videos as well. I'm sure you'll enjoy them. But I thank you all so much for watching and hope to see you for the next one as well. Peace.